Hi, I'm Christina Tidwell, and I'm really excited because I have Kristen Brown here today, founder of Altheta Health, and we are going to tell you guys everything you need to know about detoxing. So detoxing has become a big buzzword in the health and wellness world, and we hear a lot about juice cleanses and fasting and detox plans, but what does detoxing really mean, at a cellular and physiological level? And so I have Kristen here today to debunk some of these detoxing myths and help us understand what detoxing really is, when it might be beneficial, and when it might actually be doing us more harm than good. So Kristen is a nurse practitioner with years of clinical experience in urgent care, women's health, and family medicine. And she's also a graduate of the Institute for Functional Medicine. So she's uniquely trained in this functional medical model to identify and treat the root cause of chronic disease, which really sets her apart. And as you know, if you've been following me, which is something I'm really passionate about as well. So she's really passionate about helping people suffering with autoimmune disorders, digestive issues, hormonal imbalances, emotional eating disorders, and weight loss as well. So she's a wealth of knowledge, and today we're going to talk a little bit more about detoxing and what that actually means. So thank you for being here with us today, Kristen.
Thanks for having me, Christina. It's always fun to work with you. Always an adventure.
Yeah, right. I know we had some technical difficulties before, so it's definitely an adventure. But I wanted to talk about detoxing around this time of year because it's spring. And so we hear a lot about these juice cleanses or detox plans and diet plans. And I have a lot of people asking me about the benefits, if they should do one, what's good and what's bad. So maybe you can just start by diving in and telling us a little bit more about what detoxing actually is and what it means.
Sure, happy to. So I hear that stuff as well, on Instagram, Facebook, and from my patients and from my friends and family. Detox is big. It's a buzzword, but it's actually been around for a very long time, and our bodies have been doing it forever. So detoxing is detoxing, so getting rid of toxins. We have lots of toxins in our body from things that we inhale, from things that we eat, from things that we absorb. We also can create a lot of toxic environment through our actions, through our stress level, through a lot of other things. And so getting rid of toxins is done in multiple ways throughout our body. And we're going to talk a little bit more about those today. So detoxing, getting rid of the stuff that our body doesn't need, that it doesn't function well with when it's inside our system. But basically it's simple, but it's really complicated. But that's what detoxing is.
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned there's a couple different body systems that help us with detoxing. I know when we think about detoxing, we automatically think of the liver as the biggest or one of the main players in detoxification. Tell us a little bit more about the different body systems that are involved in detoxing.
Yeah, absolutely. So the liver, of course, that's the main one. Now, the liver is about this big, depending on the person. It's pretty big. It's the largest solid organ. And just a quiz, what's the largest organ of our body? Christina, do you know?
The skin.
The skin! Yay! I remember that in my undergrad classes. That was such the organ is the skin is an organ.
I know.
Anyway, I digress. So, so our body detoxes through, number one, the liver. And it's about, actually, I just looked this up. At any one time, there's about 10 to 13% of our blood in our liver. Is that crazy? I mean, it's like the size of a football, but yet it has about 10 to 13% of our blood. Yeah. So we detox through that. Our liver is kind of like our oil filter or our HEPA filter or something that's filtering things that are in our blood and getting rid of them, or in our system and getting rid of them. Another organ that our body uses to detox is the kidneys. Mm-hmm. Our kidneys are small. They're lima bean shaped. They're in our lower back, and they do lots of good stuff. So detox through our kidneys is another filter. So it also filters our blood, and the research that I have says that detoxes about 120 to 150 quarts of blood each day. So that is a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And if you have poor kidney function, you're not detoxing and toxins are building up. Poor liver function, you're not detoxing and toxins are building up. Think about someone who has jaundice, they're yellow, you can see that's a bunch of toxins building up. Another organ that we detox through is our digestive system. So if you've ever listened to Christina or me talk about digestion, we talk about poop, and we like to do it because it's so important. But we detox through our digestive system in the form of bowel movements. So we talk a lot about that, and 2 bowel movements a day, 1 to 2, not 2 bowel movements a week or 1 every 4 days. And also too many bowel movements a day, you're actually not being able to absorb the fat and the nutrients and things that you need from your food. So there is a happy spot there for people. And then we already talked about skin, our largest organ. When we sweat, we detox. So if we're here in the Northwest, and I know not all of our listeners are, but we don't sweat a lot here in the Northwest unless we're working out, or unless it's the few weeks in the summer that it's sunny. Toxins build up, right? So actually you can be a gauge of how much toxin you're getting out of your skin by smelling your armpits. If you've been sweating a lot, either by exercising, you've been doing dry brushing or infrared sauna, you're getting rid of that stuff, and that's really, really important. So liver, kidneys, digestion, digestive system, and your skin. Those are our 4 major ways.
That's good. I think we oftentimes just really think about it as the liver. We don't think about the whole body system. So that's really interesting as well to highlight that. And so when people are thinking about doing, like juice cleanses or detox diets or things like that, what's the idea behind those, and how are those helping us? How are those hurting us? What do we need to consider with those types of detoxes or cleanses?
So juice cleanses, depending on what you're putting in your juice, can be pretty extreme, right? Like having juice daily as part of a regular diet is good. But sometimes the extreme ones can be dangerous. So I want to talk to you a little bit of how I kind of approach that with my patients and people who ask me. So we need to consider lots of things when considering a detox. So usually some form of detox is okay for most people, right? So that could be food, that can be exercise, sauna, that can be whatever. But avoiding things that are coming into our body is actually a really good place to start. Now, when would I say you're not ready for a detox or it's not a good time? So before I start my patients on any kind of like major detox, I do blood tests. So I see how is their liver functioning, how are their kidneys functioning. Remember, those are 2 of our detox organs. So if your numbers are off, then we need to get things calmed down, and it's not time to do that. So I'd be cautious if you're going on this major detox and you're not quite sure what's going on with the function of 2 of your major detox organs. Another reason I would look at, if somebody is the number of bowel movements they're having. So if they're not having a lot, if they're having too many, we need to also make sure that's working up, because we don't want to release a lot of stuff into the gut and just have it sit there, because then it can be reabsorbed. What's the integrity of your skin? Another thing I probably would not have someone do a detox is if if they're pregnant or if they're breastfeeding. You're going to release some of those toxins into your breast milk, into your bloodstream. That's not a great time to do a serious detox. But I do recommend that we do that before. If anyone who's working with me and they're like, I want to get pregnant in the next little bit, I'm like, you got to give me at least 6 months, preferably a year. We need to get your body in the state that it can accept and carry a pregnancy. And then another thing is if you have a history of disordered eating. Now, why do I say that? Is because this is an extreme, right? You don't want to be on a juice detox your whole life. And if you have a lot of comfort in extremes and a lot of things that say, this is good, this is bad, you should do this, you should not do this, we're not really listening to our body. We're just following a set of rules that we use to judge ourselves with. So if this is going to be a trigger for you to go into the good versus bad and associate your worth with it, then I don't believe a detox is good for you. And with my patients, I ask about that, and definitely have resources to help them work through that, because like you and I talk about, even when we're not on these recordings, is extremes versus balance, right? Like that's huge. That's really huge. So extremes are okay, but a lifetime of extremes is not healthy for you.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I'm really glad that you brought up that piece of it, because a lot of times I think when people are wanting to do detoxes, it's when they're feeling really bad about what they've been eating, or, you know, their weight or their body. And so they think, okay, either want to be on the wagon or off the wagon. I want to be good or bad. So I want to do a juice cleanse. It almost can be like punishment or something. Like I've had these thoughts before, you know, where I'm like, oh God, I had a really bad, you know, weekend of not eating well. I need to do a 3 to 5 day juice cleanse. I need to cleanse my body. But kind of, what is the
motivation?
What's the motivation? Totally. Yeah. So I'm really glad that you are bringing up that piece of it, because I don't think that gets talked about a lot. Why we're doing that. And like you said, the extremes, your body might really not need that type of extreme. And so when it comes to detoxing, I guess, would you recommend, so definitely for people to consider the motivation first, like what's behind it, the why behind it. But then, you know, oftentimes I know you or I will recommend people just kind of transition to a real whole foods diet. And when we're thinking about detoxing, it's getting away from things like processed foods or a lot of sugar or, you know, things like that. What do you kind of recommend a good first step is for people in terms of, you know, resetting or cleansing or detoxing, anything like that, that doesn't necessarily maybe have to be so extreme?
Yeah. And like I said, extremes are okay, but they can be a slippery slope into some place you don't want to be. So taking each patient or person or client into account, we're all individual. We all have different needs, different triggers. A good place to start. Do you want to talk about food or not about food right now? A little bit both?
Yeah.
Okay. So I actually made a list of things that can support different organs in their detox. So the liver, crunchy veggies, grapefruit, fish oils, the kidneys, garlic, turmeric, ginger, blueberries, broccoli, beets, the digestive system, probiotic foods, so sauerkraut, kimchi, things like that, and prebiotic foods, so the actual, which we don't talk about a lot, are the food for the bacteria, which are the probiotics. So things like artichoke and Jerusalem artichoke, and garlic. And then your skin, you're not gonna just put broccoli on your arm. But things you can do, we've talked about already: exercise, infrared sauna, dry brushing. So those are some things that can support those processes in your body. You already touched on things to avoid, like refined sugar. Sometimes it's dairy for people, wheat and gluten, corn, soy. That's definitely working with your practitioner, your health coach, or your dietitian. But what's a good way to start? So I have all my patients start on a daily routine. So from day one, while we're waiting for some lab results, I have them start a kind of gentle detoxing of their life. And I actually wrote some things down here that I wanted to share with the viewers and listeners. And you get it for free because you're just listening to us.
Yeah,
Even better.
This is good stuff. I know. I was telling people, like, this is a good interview, and we're getting some really great knowledge from Kristen.
So meditation. Now, I talk about this with everybody, and it doesn't have to be Om, but it can be. It just means being present. I tell people, and hopefully I've told you this before too, Christine, like one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself is being present with yourself, with your body, listening to what it's trying to tell you. So if, meditating for 5 minutes in the morning means doing deep breathing, means doing the 4-7-8 breathing technique that I teach people. It's also on Vimeo with Dr. Weil, or if it means just listening to your breath, just feeling your sits bones on the chair. Your body really does want you to listen, but we just don't usually do anything about it. Usually we don't hear it or we don't do anything about it. So listening to your body, it will tell you what you need to eat. It'll tell you when you need to not exercise so much. It'll tell you when you need to exercise more. It'll tell you when you need to go to sleep. It's a pretty good thing that we've got these bodies carrying us around. They just want more attention and more respect, for sure. And then another thing I have people do is drink tea that can help detox and jumpstart the digestion. So for most people, milk thistle or dandelion root with lemon is also a good thing. Having a healthy breakfast. I generally start my day off with a green smoothie with lots of healthy fat and protein. exercise in the day is a good thing. Think about sweating, think about moving your muscles. And then another thing to remember, how many of us walk around in our gym clothes after a hot yoga class? Not so great to keep doing that, because we've got that stuff we've sweat out on our clothes and on our skin.
Yeah.
If we have that for hours, that's not good. So taking a shower is really important.
That's an interesting point. I hadn't really thought about that one.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's important.
Mm-hmm.
Meditating again at
Mm-hmm.
nighttime, taking
Mm-hmm.
an Epsom salt bath, reading a book. And
Mm-hmm.
then I was doing research for my daily routine, and I came across a physician who was helping his mother. I think she had cancer, and he did a lot of studying about laughing. So on the bottom of the routine is laugh every single day. Now, I think Christina has a pretty funny boyfriend, so she's pretty good in that department. And for some of us, we may not be so funny ourselves or know anyone super funny, but we can also watch something on TV. I'm old and I like Friends, so The Office, those things make me laugh.
Universal.
Yeah, that's good. And then absolutely sleeping enough. Our body recharges. And then one of the biggest points I wanted to make about food is eating a rainbow. So that's called the phytonutrient spectrum. And if do you want to talk about that one, Christina? I know you know a lot about that. I can touch on it if you want.
Yeah, no, go for it. I know you have that beautiful sheet that kind of goes through and shows people what to choose and how to eat the rainbow. So yeah, go for it.
Okay. So I share with people something called the phytonutrient spectrum, and it's got a list of foods under every color, and the challenge is to eat several servings every day, at least 2. We've done this at my house before, where it's awesome. Like, what did you eat today that was purple? What did you eat today that was red and green, and going through that spectrum. And it's challenging for my kids, and it's challenging for me too, because it's also funny to look at and you're like, boy, all I ate was like canned foods today. That's not good.
Yeah.
So those phytonutrients are really important, and actually pretty simple for the kids in your life. So I have it when we're doing this, I have it on the fridge, and you can check mark it, you can laminate it and make little dry erase marker check marks and use it every week. But it's really, really important for all the processes in your body to have a multiple color of foods. And now I kind of know why when I was little, my mom would be like, oh wait, our plate is missing red. So she'd go grab a tomato from the counter and add that to our dinner. And she just wanted to look pretty, but I also think she knew it was nutritious. So
maybe innately,
win-win.
Right?
Win-win.
I think that's a really good point, and I'm glad that you have talked about detoxing so holistically, because I think a lot of times we just assume that it's things that we are taking out of our body or our diet or whatever, but the importance of bringing things in to help our body with the detox processes, like having all those that rainbow of vegetables and those phytonutrients to help our liver, help our kidneys, help our immune system and our skin and our digestion is really important too. So I really like that approach, as opposed to, okay, I'm going to take out all food and everything. I'm going to just drink or do a juice for this period of time, but really thinking about it holistically. And another thing I've been thinking about detoxing, which we don't have time to talk about today, but I want to talk about another time, is like technology detoxing, things like that. So just thinking about detoxing and, in a more holistic way, as opposed to just these certain diet plans. So I really like that in your daily routine too. And what I'm going to do is, once I post this video I'll link, I have a 7-day meal plan. It's just a clean eating meal plan. It's gluten-free, dairy-free, takes out all the, potential sort of inflammatory foods we've been talking about. So if anyone is interested in like detoxing, and this is kind of a good way to take out some of those processed foods and move towards good, real whole foods and get all that rainbow, those phytonutrients in to help your body do what it needs to do to detox. But I think just sort of recapping those steps that you talked about are fantastic, and thinking about some of those foods for the specific organs for detox, also incorporating like the dandelion or milk thistle tea to help with detoxing, sweating and moving, sleeping, all of those things are really great to just kind of round it out. So I think that'll probably give people, a better idea of what this whole detoxing or cleansing thing can actually mean, and that it can be more gentle. So I think, like you said too, just summing up at the beginning, as opposed to looking outside of ourselves like, oh, I was really bad, I need to detox or cleanse. it's like, okay, how can we, take some time, see what our body might actually want or need right now, and how can we support it in a gentle, more sustainable way? Because I think it's always kind of about finding that balance, like you were talking about. So I really like that approach to it too. Is there anything else you would want to add or tell people about that, or about the detoxing, or about if they have any other questions, how they would contact you as well? That'll be an important one.
Sure. So I wanted to touch on in the last couple of minutes about starting where you're at, right? Like my job is to help people get out of their comfort zone a little bit, make some progress, but I'm not going to, if you're here, I'm not going to make you jump here and try to start there. So meet yourself where you're at and then do a little bit. So what comes first, right? Is it exercise and then you feel better and then you can eat better? Or is it eating better and then you have more energy to exercise? Is it laughing every day? Is it taking an Epsom salt bath? So think of those things that Christine and I have talked about today and pick one thing and start with it. And that's okay. And if you don't do it every day, that's okay too. Like that's just information. I feel like judgment is a huge part of our society. It's a dieting is a almost I think billion-dollar industry now. And our body really does want to tell us. So think about that. Just start where you're at, like be kind to yourself and say, good job. I decided I was going to go to bed 15 minutes early and put my phone away an hour before bed. And that's better than it was before.
Yep.
And you talked about spring being a good place. And I wanted to touch a little bit about times of the year that are good to detox. And it actually is with the change of the seasons. So if anybody's ever studied Ayurvedic medicine, they do recommend cleansing with the change of the season. So it's summer equinox is coming up, I think June 21st. That's a good time to start. If you're ready or just think about making changes, our body does like that natural rhythm. Another thing I wanted to talk quickly on about sleep. If you wake up consistently about 2 or 3 in the morning, it's probably because your liver is dumping at that time. Your blood sugar could go low. That increases your cortisol release, which wakes you up. So supporting your detox in many, many ways is important. And one thing that you can do to help yourself sleep better and help your blood sugar stay stable is have a high fat or high protein snack at night. But for some people that might keep you awake. So there's not a one size fits all approach for this. And I really appreciate Christina and her approach to food. I think she's so real. Like she's not like, well, this is what I learned and this is what you have to do or you're not going to be successful. Like she's so intelligent and so real and so kind that I feel like she just works with her clients where they're at, exactly where they're at, and helps them get to where they need to be. So I'm grateful for that.
Thank you. Yes. And you as well. Same thing, right? Yeah. Because, making these shifts and changes can be challenging for people. So we gotta, nobody's perfect. We're all humans, but there are things we can do, which I think is empowering. So
yeah, absolutely. So just the last thing I wanted to say is, if you're not sure if a detox is okay for you, see somebody. See somebody like me. I'm in the Northwest. I do telehealth. althetahealth.com is my website, or you can search Kristen Brown Functional Medicine. If you're not able to travel here for your first visit, then look on ifm.org. There is a find a practitioner page. You can put in your zip code where you're willing to travel. Make sure you look for that, look through someone who's a good fit, and try to find someone who does free consults. I do free 10-minute phone consults to see if what I do is what you need and what you need is what I do, to see if we're a good fit for each other, and get a plan and work with somebody like Christina, preferably Christina herself, but work with somebody who can work with me, and we can work together to help you implement the hard stuff that you're going to do when you're not sitting in front of us. So having a team is so important, because I think we're here to support each other. So
yeah, definitely. And especially with these, more sort of in-depth topics where you said, like, you like to get lab tests before and make sure liver and kidney function, everything's working depending on where people are at. So that can be really beneficial to test, not guess, sort of thing. So yeah, so that's great. Definitely take advantage of those 10-minute consults that Kristen offers. It's really beneficial and really awesome. You get a lot of good information, and definitely this was really, really helpful. And I so appreciate you sharing, how you work with your clients and what you give them, kind of what steps you take them through for detoxing. It's really, really valuable information. So thank you so much. it won't keep you any longer. I know we had to delay it because of our horrible technical difficulties, but we did it.
We did it.
So yes, thank you so much for this. And I look forward to speaking in the future.
Okay, thank you so much, Christina.
Okay, thanks, Kristen.
Bye.